Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Nick Tasso at the Inefficient 2. Taking a look at pitching on tonight's 7-game slate, and we got some aces going. Not in the most perfect spots, but I think it'll do.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think we're all awaiting one start from a certain someone.
Yeah, we definitely are, just to kind of see what he brings to the table, and we'll get to him in a little bit. First one here, you get the Marlins and the Cardinals, Jose Fernandez versus Michael Wacha. And personally for me, I mean, Fernandez is my top option of the night. I mean, he's just kind of lights out at home. 1.63 ERA, 2.29 WOBA allowed this year. And just given his strikeout rate, it's what you want in cash games, it's what you want in GPPs. And even though it's not a perfect matchup for me, it's just still on this slate, he's the best guy on the board.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you don't look at prices, I'd definitely roster him every single time. You look at the St. Louis offense, yeah, they still have some guys in there, but they're really banged up right now, and I think he's just really going to have his way with them. To me, 13-4 on DraftKings is way too high. I definitely think he's the safest guy on this slate, but I just am not sure if I could really do some interesting roster construction with that price.
Yeah, I mean, that is the one downside with DraftKings is he is 13-4. I mean, FanDuel, it's a little easier to kind of roll out at 11-8, just given it's a little bit more lenient of pricing. Yeah, I mean, that's really the only downside. But I mean, I guess for me, it's you can go down to a sale or a price, but then you kind of start diving down lower. There's not a lot there.
No, absolutely. And on second consideration, I think there are a few guys you could kind of pair with them in the lower prices on DK for this second starting pitcher, which might not be too bad.
Yeah, I mean, there are some cheap options as far as, guys will talk about. I think for me, I mean, it's going to be something I'd probably just lean a little bit more cash games on FanDuel and kind of stick to tournaments on DraftKings because there isn't a ton there tonight.
No, I agree with you. There's a lot of big names on here, but the big names really aren't in good spots. So Fernandez obviously is the clear guy to go.
Yeah, and on the other side, I mean, Michael Wacha, one of the non-aces going tonight. So I think for me, it's kind of a fade. I don't think he'll have a bad start, but at 6,500, I think he'll be fine. I don't know. He just kind of not on my radar.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He's given up a lot of hits lately. Kind of have a character for him, and I know Miami doesn't really have the best offense, but they can kind of get to starting pitchers every once in a while. So I kind of shying away from him. His price is nice on DraftKings, but going up against Fernandez, win is probably not likely. Those Cardinals might get a win, but it might be after he leaves. So I'm kind of staying away from him.
Yeah, I agree with you. Phillies and Braves, Matt Whistler versus Aaron Nola. This one obviously intriguing game as far as pitchers go, just because it features two of the bottom 5 offenses in the league. Aaron Nola's been a guy who's been struggling, but I mean he's been sort of unlucky. His BABIP has been just super high during that bad stretch, and even though he's in that department, he still has a rising ground ball rate. It was nearly 60% over the last month and a half. I still like him quite a bit in this matchup. I like his price now that it's kind of dropped down a little bit more than where it was in the past. Still a decent strikeout rate, and obviously the matchup with the Braves is certainly intriguing.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Nola has been up and down this season. He seemed to pitch a little bit better on the road. I mean, playing at Citizens Bank is really tough, so I don't mind him in this matchup. For me, he's just not on my radar. Seeing what the Braves can do to starting pitchers, they can kind of hit him a bit. He's just not a safe option to me. I absolutely don't mind him in GPPs though, because he could have a very good outing. It's just I don't feel completely comfortable with him.
Yeah, I mean the floor is definitely lower than desired. I mean for me it's the matchup, and as you mentioned, I mean the Braves have been somewhat better of late. They haven't been really the easy target that you can kind of throw anyone in against. But I still think Nola is one of those tier 2 guys that I feel okay with, and really if I am diving below 9K, there isn't really a ton that I feel safe with cash games. I think Nola would kind of be probably the only one that I actually do feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I can definitely see it there. And against Whistler, there is a good chance for a win. But again, it's just for me, I don't feel safe.
Yeah, it's definitely not a safe option, but I think that kind of speaks into the terms of the slate.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of guys on here where you could kind of go either way. It's not really the best slate, so
yeah,
just got to go with it.
Yeah, and Whistler on the other side, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he's deep GPP play at most. I mean, I think there is some upside. He's shown it before against the Phillies. At 5,600 has an SP2. I mean, if he can go out and get you 15 points, I don't mind it on this slate.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I know we talked a couple weeks ago about certain slates being relied heavily upon hitters, and I think this might be one of those slates as well. Cheap like that, you plug him in and he gets you 15 points. That would definitely help you out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially I think you're probably looking to pair him with the Fernandez to get that high ceiling guy in there with him, and that would kind of take some relief off as far as salary goes.
Yeah, and then you still have a decent amount to really fill out a roster.
Yeah. Orioles and Twins next one here. Kyle Gibson versus Ubaldo Jimenez, and I'm not really a fan of either of these arms. This is one of the offensive games that I'm looking to target because even though there are 4 or 5 aces on the hill tonight, it just kind of there's a lot of offensive games that are just kind of dwindled down to 1 or 2, and this one is one for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm staying far away from this game. I think some people will gravitate towards Gibson just because of his last outing, but I think that's going to be a mistake. And we've seen Ubaldo Jimenez just really be completely awful his last few starts. So I'm definitely fading this game.
Yeah, I am too. I like both sides of the team's offenses here, and Target Field. I mean, during the summer is a lot better place to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like a decent amount of hitters in this game.
White Sox Cubs next one here, and we got Chris Sale versus John Lackey. And after Chris Sale's debacle, it's going to be funny to see how he comes out and pitches. And for some reason, I just have a feeling it's either going to go one way or the other. It's going to be really good. We see a vintage Chris Sale outing on the road in Wrigley, or we see him just get completely shelled. I just feel like it's one or the other. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, he's either going to be completely pissed off Chris Sale and want to dominate and prove people wrong, or he's just going to probably mail it in because he hates the organization right now. So I don't know. I think his price is kind of nice. If he has one of those electric outings, it's definitely going to propel you up there, especially if people are playing Fernandez and he doesn't do so well. So I don't mind him. It's just I absolutely have no idea what he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this matchup. It's not a good matchup. I mean, the Cubs are solid against left-handed pitching, and the Cubs are obviously scuffling a bit. Obviously, they had a decent night last night, but still, overall, haven't really been great since the All-Star break. In Sale, I mean, for me, if that strikeout rate was near 30%, I'd be fine with it in cash. But I think he is just strictly a GPP guy for me tonight. As you mentioned, just not knowing what you're going to get.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there. There's a lot of talk around here for him getting traded. And if you just look at him, like we've known for a while, Sale's just strikeout rate just isn't the same anymore. So I'm a little hesitant with him, but he can still have one of those 10, 15 strikeout games.
Yeah, that double-digit strikeout potential is certainly there, and especially against this team that does strike out a fair amount. So I think he's a good drop down from Fernandez as far as price goes. So I think he's a nice pivot.
Yeah, obviously, like we said, not safe in cash games, but definitely for GPPs, I don't mind utilizing them here.
Yeah, and Lackey on the other side. I mean, Lackey's a guy who's been really, I mean, struggling to find that early season success that he had. I thought he would bounce back against Milwaukee. He had an okay outing against Texas. He's been a little bit better of late. The price tag's a little bit high for me. I do wish he was a bit cheaper because I do think he'd be cash game playable if he was in that 8 to 9K range on just tonight's slate. But given his price tag, I'm not really on him.
Yeah, I think on FanDuel he's only 8,600, so he's sort of okay for cash for me. Just looking at this offense in the White Sox, so I don't mind him there. I think it is a little bit too high, but he still has the potential to go out there and kind of dominate this team.
Yeah, you look at this White Sox offense. I mean, 24th in WOBA, 21% strikeout rate. I don't know. I mean, I guess on DraftKings, as you mentioned, FanDuel, it's a decent price tag. DraftKings, you got David Price sitting there at 9,300, a little bit cheaper, who I think really has a similar floor and ceiling tonight. I kind of rather take that discount.
Yeah, DraftKings, it's a different story. But for me, for FanDuel, you look at both these teams and these offenses, how they performed this year. More times than not, the Cubs offense is going to get to a pitcher, even though it is Chris Sale compared to the White Sox getting to John Lackey.
Yeah, definitely. Rangers and Royals, Cole Hamels versus Yordano Ventura. And Cole Hamels, for him, not a guy I really want a piece of. He's one of the aces that I think I'm just going to kind of fade here. Coming off a decent start against Kansas City, there wasn't any real upside there. Just 4 strikeouts, didn't go deep into the game. He's been far worse at home. I mean, ERA over 4, 10 home runs allowed this year already. I don't know. Hamill's a guy just because of the ballpark and because of the matchup that I'm just kind of fading.
Yeah, I'm fading both starters of this game. You look at Hamels, and his struggles with home runs have really been there all his career. And even though this is Kansas City, they don't hit too many home runs, don't have too many power bats from the right side. There's still potential there for him. And like you said, the last outing was just kind of mediocre. And when you're paying close to 10,000, you kind of want a little bit more than a mediocre outing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the one thing that is a bother with him. I mean, and even the FanDuel price, I mean, it's not quite far enough off of Sale for me to kind of swerve down to. I think Sale has the higher upside. So Cole Hamels just kind of either gets lost where I want to go cheaper or just kind of pay up for Sale.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just one of those guys who's there and his price is too high, which makes him unplayable.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Ventura, not really a guy to look at tonight.
It's a bad ballpark, good offense, and even though he is 5,700 on DraftKings, I still probably would stay away from him.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure if he's okay or not. I mean, said he wasn't injured.
He's never okay.
That's true, but yeah, he just becomes, he has shown some good upside games this year, but I don't think it happens tonight. I think this ballpark is something that's going to be a little bit troublesome for him, and he's been far worse on the road as well.
Absolutely, and we've seen that starting already. Globe Life is kind of a bandbox now. Everything's going out.
Yeah, definitely. Red Sox and Angels next year, Jared Weaver versus David Price, and I'm not looking at Price on FanDuel, just given he's 10-1. I'd rather just roll a Sale or go down to a Nola and kind of hope for the best. But DraftKings, I think he's an intriguing option at 9,300. I think there is a little bit of safety in this matchup. Obviously, the Angels, not a high strikeout team. They're not a bad team against lefties, but they don't have a lot of pop. There's not really a lot there. I think a starter like David Price can do pretty well against him. He's a sizable favorite, too. I just think Price considered he comes away and gets you a win and should be able to hover around 20 DK points tonight.
Yeah, it's hard to really disagree with that. To me, I'm just continuing honing on to Price, who allows second most hits in all of the American League. So I think with this Angels offense, they really could get to him a little bit. I'm not sure if they'll really will score too many runs, but the hits might come in on DraftKings. When you get penalized for that, it's going to kind of hurt his projected amount.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, as you mentioned, the base runners have been a big issue with Price this year, and that's the one downside with DraftKings. I think just given that he's priced around some other guys like a Rourke, like a Hamels, he's kind of the best out of that tier for me because I think the other guys are in similar situations.
No, I definitely agree with you that, but I'm just going back on back-to-back games of 11 hits, and he's not a safe option. He can definitely have a pretty good outing. I think he's safe for GPPs, and you could kind of do well if you roster him, but for cash games, I'm staying away.
As far as Weaver, I mean, speaking of staying away, I think Weaver's the easiest guy to probably pick on tonight and stay away from.
Absolutely. Every time I see him start and I just look at his home run rate and it's pathetic. And I know this Red Sox offense has been up and down the last few games, but they should really have their way with him.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not worried about them going out on the West Coast trip and kind of stalling for offense right off the bat.
No, I'm worried about staying up to watch them, but that's just my issue.
Last game here, Tanner Rourke and Johnny Cueto. Giants -141 favorites. This game, I mean, it features two quality arms. Obviously, Cueto a little bit more quality than Rourke. I don't know. I think this game's just kind of a washout. It just seems like for me, it's not even there. When I look at the slate, I don't like any real hitters. I don't really like the pitchers. The matchup really isn't great. I guess you could make a case for Rourke just because this Giants offense is struggling a little bit, but still, it's nothing that I feel great about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this game is more GPPs for starters. Like you said with Rourke, he's kind of been inconsistent, but so has the San Francisco offense. They've had a lot of injuries, so he could have a good outing. And kind of same with Cueto, if he could kind of get around Harper, Murphy, I think he could have a good outing, but it's definitely not something I feel safe. And at both those prices for those guys, you don't want to waste too much salary and cash games on something that's not a sure thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you look at these offenses. I mean, they're almost identical. Giants and Nationals. I mean, against right-handed pitching, they ranked 16th and 17th in WOBA. Fairly low strikeout rates. Nationals have a little bit more power, but in that ballpark, obviously, it's not going to be something that jumps out at you. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think GPPs at most. And I think that's just a game that just it's really unattractive as far as DFS goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the ballpark, and yeah, it's a terrible ballpark factor. It's great for pitchers, but we're at this time and starting to get into the heat of the summer, and any game that's in a nice weather, there's really opportunities for pitchers to get hit hard, even in good ballparks.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw that over this past series with the Reds. I mean, the Reds put up crooked numbers there. We saw Jay Bruce, I mean, continue to tear the ball. So, yeah, I mean, it is one of those things, as you mentioned, these ballparks starting to become a little bit more hitter friendly, just given the warmer weather.
Absolutely. I mean, even Duval too. So it's just one of those things. This game is, to me, more just GPP wise.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Let's wrap things up here with the pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out DaveFantasyCafe.com for all great tools and content.